Hi, I'm Laura. I'm working at Plantation Villa. I'm one of the yoga teachers here. And today I'm going to talk about some of the principles that we can utilize to manage stress. Stress has become such a big thing now, and in the UK especially, we see this rise in mental health problems, anxiety and depression, and the inability to cope with life. I think people nowadays are really kind of fueled by desires for wanting things and kind of always striving for the next thing, achieve a certain level in their career or achieve certain things in life that they think will bring them happiness. Because life actually is kind of so out of our control, when things don't go our way, we get stressed and we get overwhelmed. And if you've never really tried to train or develop the mind in any way, when something difficult, really like something hits you hard, then we fall. So I was hoping to talk today about how we could help to manage that so that we can develop a mind that is able to withstand difficulties and not get so stressed out by things. So one of the ways that we try to help people manage their stress is through this practice of mindfulness. And if you look back to yoga and really the traditions of yoga and also Buddhist principles, they teach you about how to train the mind to always kind of stay in the present. If we're anxious, we're kind of worried about something that may or may not happen. So that the mind is always kind of either going to the past or to the future, and mindfulness teaches you to keep the mind in the present moment. And it's when the mind is able to stay in the present moment is when it relaxes. So mindfulness is something you can practice anywhere, anytime. And that is the most amazing thing about it. If I was to get up now and go make a cup of tea, in that kind of short time that I've walked to the kitchen to make a cup of tea, where was my mind? Was it with me during that time I was walking, or was it thinking about what's coming next or where I'm going or something completely different? So mindfulness is about keeping your mind with you in everything that you do. In any moment, we can bring mindfulness to it. For example, if we're starting to feel a little bit angry about something, then be aware of it. What kind of thoughts are you having, about this person or this situation? Just simply notice and observe, how does it feel to be angry? So rather than suppressing it or thinking, no, I shouldn't feel this way, or this is bad, or I should just be present, or kind of creating conflict with your thinking, just watch it. Watch how the mind operates when it's angry. And you'll see that there's no real benefit to it. All that happens is that we lose our sense of contentment and our sense of peace and happiness. So yoga is the perfect way to practice mindfulness. Nowadays, yoga is seen more of an exercise. If you go to your gym, there's probably a yoga class there, and a lot of it's more fitness-based. But traditionally speaking, yoga is a way of practicing meditation. Rather than thinking about the aesthetics of how you look, actually see it as a way to practice mindfulness. If you're moving from one posture to another, how does it feel? What is the physical sensation of moving? And then along with that, tying that in with the breath. So then training both the body and the breath together has also an effect on the mind, because you've got two components there that you're focusing on as you're moving, and also it's calming the nervous system as you go along. So it's having this very kind of slowing down effect on both the body and the mind. So the second principle I wanted to talk about was this practice of love and kindness. In Buddhism, it's a very big kind of core teaching of Buddhist practice. And it's not about this kind of transactional love that we're very often used to. If I love you, then you have to love me back. Or if I love or I give in a certain way, then that has to be given back to me in the way that I expect it. But the true practice of loving kindness in Buddhism is not that. It's It's more of a selfless way of being, a selfless expression of your kindness and compassion towards others. If we are being loving and kind with expectations, then the mind is getting attached to a certain image that you have of somebody acting in a certain way. We're trying to control the outcome of everything. The thing is, because life is kind of so out of our control, we try to grasp it. We can be so in love with someone, but we try to grasp that feeling and grasp that person as they are in that moment and hold it that way because it feels nice in the moment. But the nature of reality doesn't work that way. Everybody's body is physically changing. Our cells are constantly changing every second. So when you see this happening, you can kind of sit back a little bit and think, well, actually, can I just be loving and kind without expectations and just kind of let things be as they are, just accepting things as they come? So it ties in with this love and kindness, because the mind gets stressed when we grasp, right? When we hold things and it doesn't turn out the way we want. So the Buddha had talked about loving kindness as not just loving, those who are close to us or those who it's easy to love, but actually those who it's difficult to love. And when you think about that, that's kind of hard, right? Because it's not always easy to love everyone. People don't always act in the way that we want. And sometimes people do things that we think are bad or unwholesome, or they kind of fight with us or argue with us. And sometimes people try to hurt us or intentionally try to hurt others. But instead of actually getting angry about it and upset or annoyed or frustrated, instead of letting our minds go to that place, which also is kind of unwholesome as well, and it just doesn't feel good, right? If we're in that state, then our peace is it's disappeared, our happiness has disappeared. So it's one way of actually keeping and maintaining our happiness is through sending thoughts of loving kindness towards that person or situation. And so this is one of the most profound ways and profound things we can do to manage our stress is to actually be more kind to others. At Plantation Villa, what we do is we do a morning chanting session that is actually chanting the words that the Buddha had spoken on loving kindness. It's called the Metta Sutta. You will find when you practice it, it's very relaxing and very calming. The final principle that I wanted to talk about is actually reflecting on the nature of reality. And so this is something that actually a Buddhist monk had taught me. So sometimes we have a Buddhist monk come here from Sri Lanka, and he gives talks to the guests and does counseling with them. And in many of his talks, he brings up this topic because especially nowadays, we get so caught up in our problems and our stresses and our worries that we forget how short life is. In 100 years from now, we won't even be here. But yet in the moment, we get so caught up in wanting to win an argument, or, this is my problem, or this is mine, and I'm right and you're wrong. But in the end, it doesn't matter. One way that you can actually practice this is through constant reflection, and this ties in with mindfulness as well, is this having an awareness when you are getting stressed and then taking a step back. First, allow the mind to kind of relax, whether you bring your mind to your body again or sense where you are, or you bring your mind to your breath. Then once the mind has calmed down a bit, take some time to reflect and think about the cycle that we're all on. At some point, our body was born, right? It was created from something. And one day this body is going to age and we will get sick and this body will die. We kind of try to forget about it. We don't want to think about that. So we kind of want to grasp things and, gain more things or search for material things or excitement or thrills or all these kind of things. But in the end, it's all temporary. And a happiness that stays comes from a mind that is trained. It's trained in mindfulness. It's trained in loving kindness, and It's trained to always see the reality.